Racism and death. Yes, it's the same news every day, and more of it next on The Michael Newman Show. Hello, my friends. Michael Newman Show, live on the air. You, me, talking about stuff. You'll notice things are a little bit different. I got some funky new toys. I don't know why, but I did. I got the funky new toys. Actually, the truth is that it was taking so long to do the audio podcast and the video podcast in a day that I couldn't really do anything else, and I got really burnt out on it, and I stopped for a while. And so I went ahead and spent a little bit of money. Behind me is not this red thing. Behind me is a big green thing. And then I figured out how to make the picture-in-picture and all the chroma key and all that stuff work. So that's why it is what it is. So we're going to be. This is the debut of me doing the podcast in this way, using the new software. So there's a good chance things are going to get screwed up royally. Just want you to know that, but it is what it is. Go to the, well, that's not the thing I wanted you to see. That's the thing I wanted you to see. That is my website. You can go there. Oh, see how I pop up? Isn't that what I can even be bigger? Yay! Okay. Go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. This is what the website looks like. All the wonderful stuff. Here's the blog section. In the blog section, that is where we do all the links for the show. This is not today's links. This is a previous show's links, but that's what they look like. So you can go check that out, michaelnewmanproductions.com. You can check out my services. You can also, of course, support the show. Just click the support icon. It takes you to a page, tells you about supporting the show, tells you what Patreon is, has a link for all that stuff so you can support the show. And it's pretty cool, right? Right. And it'd be very helpful because I bought toys and I need to pay for them. So that's how that works. Sorry if the fidelity isn't, like the video isn't as good as it used to be. The easy answer to that is the version of the software that I have was like $90 in an upgrade, and it only allows you to do certain frame rates and certain fidelity, and the version that lets you do better, or at least what I was doing before, was an extra $200 on top of that. So decided to go the cheap route, and it is going to be what it is for a while, at least until I start making some more money. And but that's okay. That's okay. So let's go to the news. What is happening in the news today? Very sad, actually. Hugh Hefner passes away at the age of 91. Hugh, of course, Playboy magazine. I believe that started in 1953. Multimillionaire. He died of natural causes at the Playboy Mansion, according to a statement by Playboy Enterprises. Magazine founder sold the home for $100 million in 2016 with the stipulation that he could continue to live there. That was kind of a big story at the time. His son Cooper, who was COO of the company, called him a cultural pioneer. So Hugh Hefner passes away. You know, he died, but I got to tell you, not a whole hell of a bad life, right? I think he had a good time. And he lived to 91. It's not like he had a short life. So Hugh Hefner passes away. Very sad stuff there. Now, what's happening to the rest of us? Senate is not going to ditch Obamacare. The Senate will not vote on Republicans' latest bill to repeal Obamacare this week, putting an end for now to the GOP's 7-year campaign to dismantle health care and the law. This is what they campaigned on. This is what they told us they were going to do. And then, of course, they didn't do it. And we're starting to really figure out what the Republicans are all about. The decision was reached at a party lunch on Tuesday after it became clear that the plan would fail. GOP senators said that 3 Senate Republicans had already said they would vote against the measure, and the GOP could only afford 2 defections on this to make it happen. Now, good or bad, I don't know. I mean, it's bad that Obamacare is still in place, but the question is, was the GOP care, we'll call it GOP care, there you go, was it good enough to matter, right? Was it going to do anything good enough to really fight over it? And I don't know. It seems like everything that the GOP actually got serious about was just Obamacare light. And that's not what the American people wanted, nor what they voted for. They voted for a complete repeal, not replace. People tend to forget that, change the nomenclature of things, and just move forward. The truth is the GOP doesn't want to get rid of Obamacare because it gives them too much control. Now, McConnell said on Tuesday afternoon, where they go from here is tax reform. What's going on with the tax reform? Republicans agree to raise the bottom tax rate. With the double standard deductions, top White House and GOP leaders have agreed to raise the lowest individual tax rate from 10 to 12%, paired with a doubling of the standard deduction. 5 senior Republicans tell us. The big picture is this. Republicans plan to collapse the number of brackets from 7 to 3. The standard deduction would almost double to $12,000 for a single person, single filer, and $24,000 for a married couple, meaning that Trump can accurately argue that many low-income earners pay no taxes under his plan. Isn't that nice? Well, I'm not going to be Mitt Romney. Well, I'm not going to be Mitt Romney and tell people should pay their taxes. Blah, blah, blah. All of it, I think, is garbage. Are we going to pay less taxes? Are we paying more taxes? What it is? And then people, specifically Democrats, come in and, well, how are we going to fund the government? We need more money. We need more revenue. Taxes isn't the issue. Okay? Spending is the issue. And the government isn't going to do anything that reduces their spending. They're not going to do it. They will fight tooth and nail not to reduce spending. And that is the way it is. Because, look, it's called buying votes. That's how it works. What do you think pork is? You know, those little projects that senators and congressmen get through the through the Congress and put into law so that they can shoot money back to their districts. Well, that, you know, these little kickbacks, basically that's what it is, get people elected. And it doesn't really matter how bad those things are for the country because, you know, a senator doesn't care about the country. A congressman doesn't care about the country. They care about their own personal career. And people that are receiving the money say they don't care either because they're receiving money. That's how it works. So unless something big changes, I think we're going to see the same old, which is exactly the opposite of what we voted for. People don't want the same old anymore. We realize that it doesn't work, that it's been bad for America, it's been bad for you and me, and then we voted for a guy that we thought was going to change that, or at least going to be the straw that broke the camel's back and start to loosen things up, shake up the system so that down the line we could actually change things. And it turns out that, nothing is being changed and nothing is being done. Now, granted, we sort of predicted this, at least I did, because I knew that the Republicans out there didn't want to work with Trump. The Republicans out there, the establishment are Democrat light, if that. I think they're just Democrats, frankly, and they just want to grow the government. They want to grow their own power. That is the way things work. So it's very, very scary, although that's not at all what we voted for as Americans. No. Alabama Republican people voted decisively to nominate Roy Moore, a former state Supreme Court justice for U.S. Senate, delivering a rebuke to President Donald Trump and the GOP establishment that supported his rival. Now, of course, this is a story written by the Wall Street Journal, which doesn't particularly like Trump. They want him out. The Wall Street Journal is a establishment Republican publication. That's what it is. They're not conservative. No, that's not what they're about. They're Republicans. That's what the Wall Street Journal is. And, of course, they write stories in that fashion. Now, you have to understand what this is all about. Roy Moore is really seen, at least by the people there, from everything that I can tell, as the outsider. Matter of fact, he was backed by Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon came in and helped with the campaign. President Donald Trump, in this instance, I think, was just going along with the GOP and the to play nice, to make nice. And I don't think he really had any truck in this thing. Many Republicans believe that Mr. Moore, an anti-incumbent outsider, was more in line with the spirit of the 2016 Trump campaign than Mr. Strange, who was the person that was ousted and had close ties with the hierarchy in Washington. A Moore victory in the general election would add to a strong anti-establishment insurgent figure into the ranks of the GOP in Washington, which I think is a very, very good thing. Now, of course, this guy scares a lot of people. Number one, because he is an evangelical.
And they talk about the law. You know, the law requires you, says you should stand and put your hand over your heart. That's in the 36 USC 301, last amended in 2008. That's the law, United States Code. When are we going to get back to the law? We shouldn't need the law when we've done what he's done. We are living fat and happy. But hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel. Back in the days of Israel, it could be said of America. Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of America, for the Lord hath the controversy with the inhabitants of this land, because there's no truth nor mercy nor knowledge of God in the land. By swearing and
now, the reason I'm playing this part here is twofold. Number one, to show that he is an evangelical, very much so. He's actually really good at it too. He sounds like a preacher. But number two, this quote, this biblical quote that he comes up with, I really like, because this question of not knowing God, you know, if you don't know God, you're he's going to finish it and basically say you're not going to be living in a very nice place if you don't know God. And I was thinking about that and the knowledge of God. What does that mean? And I think for all intents and purposes, at least in my belief system, it is the knowledge, devout knowledge, that you are not God, that you are fallible, that you are an individual, not an oligarch, right? I think a lot of people and a lot of problems within our country exist because people wish to be God. They wish their views to be forced on to others. And if you live in a place like that, where ideologies are being shoved down your throat on a daily basis, it's not going to be a very nice place to live.
Lying and killing and stealing, they break forth, and blood toucheth blood. Therefore shall the land mourn, and everyone that liveth therein shall languish.
Yeah. When people decide they know better, they know best, and they know how it works, and specifically, at least in our case, when people start looking at others and saying, you're my problem, you are the reason I am in the situation that I'm in, you're going to be in a place that is full of bloodlust. Absolutely full of it, and that's what we're seeing in the United States today. But then he gets into more of what is going on in America, and the reason why, frankly, he thinks he was elected. I think he's right, and the fact that nothing is being done.
Tomorrow is a very, very important time. This election is critical to this nation. For whatever reason, God has put me in this election at this time, and all the nation is watching. All Washington is watching to see what the people of Alabama do tomorrow.
And of course, they elected him in the primary.
Do we Will we take a stand against a Washington establishment who's trying to come down here and buy this election with $30 million?
Sounds like the Democrats.
We send them a message. Very clear. Alabama can't be bought.
Well, it can. Come on. But it's going to take more.
Alabama will take a stand. And I'm going to tell you, when you do, everybody will see it. Everybody will be encouraged to take them on and stop the people that are trying to keep their jobs up there and do nothing. In November 2016, when Donald Trump was elected, everybody was filled with hope. Hope that we were going to have something happen in Washington. And what have we had? Riots, demonstrations, protests. Nothing has happened. We've had bills, hundreds of bills, 500 in 2016, a low 200, I'm understanding, in 2017. And how many have gone through the Senate? Because the Senate won't move. They don't want to move. If they did, how hard is it to repeal Obamacare?
Yeah, well, it seems like Obamacare got passed fairly easily, didn't it? I mean, the Democrats, they had all this power. Next thing you knew, they're doing all these things against the will of the American people. So why is it that the Republicans have such a difficult time getting anything to move? And there's one thing that we need to make sure is very clear here, that doing things in government isn't necessarily a good thing. So your stint in the government is not rated by how many bills you get passed. But sometimes you get elected based on certain ideas that you will campaign for, that you will push for. And the Republicans have been campaigning on a couple of things for the past 7 years or so, namely getting rid of Obamacare. Of late, it's been taking care of illegal immigration. And once they got all this power, not only the Senate, the House, and the presidency, but 1,200 different elected offices all the way down ticket to the states, we gave a tremendous amount of political authority to the GOP. And once they get to a point where it's time, here you go, let's get it done, let's start doing the things that you campaigned on, they're incapable of doing it. What it means is they lied in the very beginning. And we're not done, my friends. This is this is what you have to remember. We're not done. We kicked the Democrats out, okay, because they're ridiculous and dangerous people. We kicked the Democrats out. We have to keep them out. Now we have to clean up the Republican Party. Now we have to get rid of all the Democrats in the Republican Party, the John McCains of the world. And we see it starting in Alabama, which is, I think, is a very, very good thing. There's a piece here from the Washington Examiner. Speaking of things that need to be done here in the United States, a record $135 billion a year is spent on illegal immigration. Okay, when I say that, I mean it's spent on the illegal immigrants. This is what we're paying out of our tax dollars. This is what the government is subsidizing with illegal immigrants. The swelling population of illegal immigrants and their kids is costing American taxpayers $135 billion annually, the highest ever, driven by free medical care, education, and a huge law enforcement bill, according to the most authoritative report on the issue as yet. And despite claims from pro-illegal immigrant advocates that the aliens pay significant offsetting taxes back to the federal government, state, and local treasuries, the Federation for American Immigration Reform report tallied only $19 billion being paid back. $19 billion is what they pay in taxes. $116 billion is what we pay out to them. Isn't that amazing? State and local governments are getting ravaged by the cost. Over $88 billion just to state and local governments. Isn't that outrageous? President Donald Trump, Attorney Jeff Sessions, and conservatives in Congress are moving aggressively to deal with illegals, especially those with long criminal records, but their efforts are being fought in the courts by some 300 so-called sanctuary communities that refuse to work with the federal law enforcement agencies. You wouldn't think this would be a problem. You would think it would go away pretty quickly. I mean, when Arizona decided that they were going to create immigration laws that mimicked that of the federal government, basically giving themselves the authority to actually begin to enforce the immigration laws that are on the books, the Obama administration stepped in and quashed that very, very quickly because, immigration, constitutionally, the The sovereignty of the national borders are the purview of the federal government and federal government solely. And so he had, I guess, the legal grounds to stop that. So if a city decides that they are going to thwart federal law on something that is a sovereign purview of the federal government, you would think it would be fairly easy for them to lose in court. But it's just not happening. It's just not happening. So we've got a long ways to go, my friends. We've had a lot of wins over the past year, over the past 2 years, really since Obama started taking office. That first term, the 2008 term of Obama, was a very, very low point. And then at that point, people really started to look at what was happening within the country. They were very unhappy with it, and we started to move forward. But we're not there yet, and we can't give up. And frankly, we never can give up. That's kind of the scary thing when your guys get elected, is you elect these people, and then you think, all right, well, we did our job. Now we can relax. And the truth is you can never relax because people get corrupted, things change, and you just really have to stay on top of everything. Speaking of on top, I love this one. Saw this story. I like to throw in stories like this because you don't see it very often. The words stuffed cow in a headline. Yes, stuffed cow. Yeah, look at that. It looks like a real cow that somebody's hanging upside down there. Oh, make it bigger. Oh, look. Oh, it's Bessie. What the hell's Bessie doing hanging from the rafters? A restaurant in Australia is facing an online backlash over the installation of a stuffed hanging cow from its ceiling. It's a pizza place in South Australia, and they had this poor thing taxidermied. It was an 8-year-old Hereford heifer, and it's now suspended from the ceiling by the hind legs. The owners of the restaurant say they wanted to challenge diners' programmed perceptions of a dairy cow and educate consumers on the origins of their food, which I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, knowing where your food comes from. You are eating this. See this? You're eating this. Isn't that crazy? Oh, no, look at the poor cow. You can kind of see it in the background, just sort of hanging. And I like how that's the front of the building, too. And they're showing this thing off. But there's some people that are very unhappy about the whole thing. He said it's designed to make consumers stop and think about the realities of the industry. However, critics labeled the installation, quote, unspeakable, atrocious, and shocking to see. Which makes me happy. Yeah. I like to shock people. That's how it works. A petition signed by more than 4,000 people say this display of a real dead mother cow and having her body hanging over the tables by their feet is unconscionable. People are trying to eat, for God's sake. Yes, you're trying to eat that cow. I think they should change out the cow. That's what they should do. You see, well, a big slab of beef will feed a lot of people, right? So every time they have to get a new slab of beef, every one of those cows are going to have taxidermy, or have it hanging up there, or you can just go out. Hopefully there'll be FFA cows, kids cows, the ones that they raise, and buy exclusively from the Future Farmers of America. And granted, they're in Australia, but maybe we can bring this over here. And what you do is when you get the cow, you buy the cow for slaughter, and you feed the people with it. And maybe you buy one a month or two a month or whatever it is. And then you get from the kid for an extra $25 a picture of them petting the cow, posing with the cow, just loving on the cow. And now you're eating the cow. I like that. It's real. Shows you the grit in society. I like grit. All right. Well, that was fun. You know what? I'm not taking it. Not taking it. I'm doing something here. And it was a phone call. Sorry about that. Let's continue. Sheila Jackson Lee. Isn't she a fantastic lady? Yep. Sheila Jackson Lee stood on the House floor, this happened Monday, to kneel in solidarity with the NFL players who chose to defy President Trump and protest police brutality.
We simply ask for the dignity of respect to not call our mothers a son of a bee. And if they kneel, as I heard a young man who's an NFL player said that he will kneel from now on. And the only reason he's doing it is because someone had the lack of judgment to provoke the situation and call their mothers a name. I refuse to accept that as a standard of leadership for the highest office in the world. And even if you never...
Well, you know, here's the problem. There's a lot of people in the United States that agree with him that this standing up for a false premise, by the way, and not recognizing the flag is an insult to America. It's an insult to a large group of people. And the ratings for the NFL is show that people are just fed up with the garbage and the political crap out there based on lies. So when the president comes out and say these SOBs should be fired, people tend to agree with him.
Understand it, sir. If you never understand it, if you think you're playing to your base, if you're not the unifier, we will continue to stand in the gap, and racism is going to be under our foot. And you know where else it's going to be? It's going to be under our knee.
How are you fighting racism? How are you fighting racism? See, this is the thing. They come up with some sort of catch-all term like racism, and that suddenly becomes the reason for everything that they do. Everything that they do, they're doing to fight racism or to do all these things. And it really doesn't matter the context of what they're doing, because they're doing it to fight racism. So the ends justify the means. We are fighting, or the fight justifies the means. So they can basically get away with atrocities. They can get by with attacking half of the country, or a larger section of the country than just half, maybe 80% of the country. They can get by with attacking them because they've said it's based on the idea of anti-racism. And who's going to fight against that?
Because we in the Congressional Black Caucus have always stood for what is right. And the First Amendment, there is no basis in the First Amendment that says that you cannot kneel on the national anthem or in front of the flag.
No, that's true. You're absolutely right. There's nothing in the First Amendment that says you cannot do these things, that it would be illegal.
Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of press. Prohibition against abridging freedom of speech applies to Congress and state and local governments through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Speech may be abridged in two distinct ways.
Okay, I'm wondering if she read this correctly and what she's reading from. That speech can be, understand what she said, speech can be abridged in these two ways.
Directly by regulating content of speech.
Directly by regulating content of speech. So speech can be curtailed by directly regulating content of speech. Well, that would be completely unconstitutional. Directly regulating content of speech, you can do that. So I don't know what she's reading from. Right? That would be passing a bill that says you can't say these words. Now, they've done it with the FCC, and they've kind of gotten by with it, but no one's really challenged that with the FCC for quite a long time, and I don't think anybody wants to, because the broadcast medium that is like radio and television over the air is still a goodly percentage of what people consume in media, but it's an albatross of dying things, and people are moving over to other avenues of broadcast, like I'm doing right now, that don't have those things. It don't have an FCC riding herd over the top of them. So I think it's just a point where people don't think it's worth it to go after the FCC and their language laws. Now, if it were to begin to be applied to things like internet broadcast or satellite broadcast or whatever it is, then you would see a big fight on your hands.
Indirectly by regulating time, manner, and place.
Time, manner, and place. So she's saying the government, this is what she said. I don't know what she's reading from. It's completely wrong. That And it frankly also doesn't, it proves the opposite of her point, that if these two things she was talking about were true, then the government, by the way, would have every right to walk in and decide the time, manner, and place where you can't say these specific things or can't do these specific things that would be, in general, protected by First Amendment rights. So basically, from whatever she's reading from, and the way she read it, at least the way I'm listening to it here, means that Congress and the Senate and the Trump administration could get together and say, if you are an NFL player during the games, you will stand with reverence to the flag of the United States of America, and you will know the Pledge of Allegiance, and you will do all these things. You will sing along, or else you will go to prison for the rest of your life. And according to what you just read, that would be perfectly legal, but of course we know it's not.
And so you cannot abridge by standing up with tweets. And you cannot abridge without law and regulation.
Okay, I like how she brings up the tweets here. I find that to be interesting because from the very beginning, both Republicans and Democrats have been lambasting our president, President Donald Trump, for doing all the tweeting out there. You shouldn't be tweeting. The tweeting is ridiculous. Stop the tweet. Oh, the tweet is, we can't do the tweeting anymore. But, of course, there's nothing to stop him. And it's the same situation with this NFL thing. Donald Trump is going out there and saying these people that aren't standing and showing reverence for our national anthem are SOBs. And he has every right to say that, but he's not going out and saying it's illegal. I'm going to send the cops in to come arrest you. Now, can he say that he thinks that the NFL should get rid of them? Absolutely, he can. He can tweet it and do whatever he wants because that's part of his speech. He gets to stir the pot if he wants to. He gets to make a suggestion if he wants to, even if he's the president of the United States, right? He gets to do that, just like the people out there have the right, the NFL players and all these people have the right to tweet and to not stand for the national anthem.
There is no regulation that says that these young men cannot stand against the dishonoring of their mothers by you calling them fire the son of a bee. You tell me what.
That's very interesting. I never really caught that before. She's not defending the players. She's defending their mothers. You couldn't possibly defend the players because those are men. Yeah, men don't need defense. Men, these players, they got money. We can't defend them, but they're poor mothers. We have to defend their poor mothers against this evil president who called them bitches. Oh, God. I bet you plenty of them are bitches. How many mothers are there within the sphere of the NFL? And if you compared that to the population of women, there is a goodly percentage of women in the general population that are just complete bitches. Many of them have resting bitch face, so they're bitchy when they're not even moving. It's like white privilege. If you're white, you got it. You know? Women, I'm sorry, you just got it? Is that what it is? I mean, you seem kind of bitchy here. I almost said Maxine. It's not Maxine. Too bad. If it was Maxine, she would have already thrown an axe at a picture of Donald Trump already. Sheila Jackson Lee. Sorry, Sheila. So she's not defending. Am I being a dick? Yes. She's not defending the players. She's defending their mothers. So it's very feminist of you.
Of those children's mothers or a son of a bee. That is racist. And
their children, too, by the way. Their children, granted, from your perspective, everyone's a child because you're 178 years old, but these $1 million+ making NFL gigantic men are children.
You cannot deny it. You cannot run for it. And I kneel in honor of them.
Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't on the tape. I'm pretty sure there was a fart at the end, though. She looked like she was breaking wind. Anyway, Sheila Jackson Lee grandstanding on the floor of the Senate there, so that's good stuff. Now, what else is going on in the realm of politics and race? So, people get to go out. NFL players get to go out. Millions of individuals see these players. And they get to kneel during the national anthem. Nothing much we can do about it, and that's perfectly fine. That is laudable. That is something to be praised. But when a home team, Brooke High in West Virginia, faced off Friday night against a visiting Parity High School from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a banner was displayed in front of the bleachers. It read, Trump Perry, red, white, and blue, followed by an American flag, and some people didn't like it at all. Oh, no. Oh, no, you couldn't possibly have the banner. And I had the picture. Oh, wait, here we go. I've got the picture for you. Can I drop it in there? I can drop it in there. This is what it looked like. The banner. Trump Perry. Okay, that's what was displayed. That's what the students had put on out there. And apparently, that's not good at all. That's racist. You're racist, SOB. A lot of people didn't like that at all.
Of course it was a low blow. These is black kids coming to play football, and y'all got a sign that say Trump Perry.
It's sad that the kids are already, it's like they're brainwashed.
Okay, they're brainwashed. Trump Perry, that's awful. A librarian with a Pittsburgh public school who is white and calls herself an outlaw educator tweeted a photo of the banner on Saturday with the Brooks students behind it, saying that her mostly black inner-city school played this team last night and were confronted with this sickening racism. The superintendent of Brooke County School District apologized Monday for the banner, calling it insensitive, intimidating, and offensive.
The sign garnered so much attention that the superintendent of the Brooke County, West Virginia School District contacted Perry's principal directly to ask for forgiveness, saying, quote, I apologize for the insensitive, intimidating, and offensive sign posted in our student section at Friday night's game. The sign's message does not reflect our true beliefs.
So having a sign in support of a political ideology, and the president and his vice president, having a sign in support of them is intrinsically racist. You can't do that. You can't support. You can't. No, because these two people that we have in the White House are racist. We all know it. We have decided it. So if you hold up a sign, you're absolutely racist, and that offends me. It's very offensive. This is about not having the right to beliefs from the left here. It's like the Inquisition. The left today is turned into the Catholic Church. If you do not toe the line, they will burn you at the stake. And you know what? Some people may also have been offended back in the day that schools were preaching to the kids from the other side. Do you remember this? Shortly after Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, there were these pageants put on. Ooh, 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 Barack Hussein Obama. Kids were taught to do this. Small children who couldn't fight back. And I can't imagine if it were older kids with this sort of thing, if they just decided, no, we're not going to do this, what they would have been called. So it's okay to proselytize to students and expand your love for the President of the United States if it's a leftist that you like. But if it's not someone that you like, who's intrinsically evil, then you can't do it. Understand, now, we've been talking about this for a while, and people have a short memory. It's very scary. And there's the Ben Shapiro's of the world, who's a nice guy. He's a good guy, and he says a lot of the right things. But his problem is he's not the type that will ever know when to drop the hammer. He's not the type. He will talk about freedom. He will give it the lip service, and he will say the right things. But when it comes to action, he is not the person that will do that. He won't. And just understand that we're fighting against an intractable evil here, one that has already shown itself to be murderous. Remember Representative Steve Scalise, the guy that was shot? He got his first interview since being shot and critically wounded. And in it, he describes the extent of his injuries.
I found out later just how much damage was done internally. My femur was shattered. The hip and pelvis had serious damage where the bullet went through and, did some damage to areas that had to be shored up with steel plates, and they did a phenomenal job of rebuilding, kind of the rebuilding Humpty Dumpty. There was a lot of damage inside that.
If I was a senator and they had rebuild a femur or whatever it was, I'd say just take the leg. Give me one of those bionic legs. Take both legs. Matter of fact, take the arms too. Make me RoboCop. Can you do that? If I got shot in the line of duty, so to speak, as a senator, the least you can do is make me RoboCop. I want to be a freaking cyborg, okay? It would be nice, wouldn't it? I think it would be. That's where I become the happiest, when I'm a cyborg. So they are the people that have struck first blood, and they continue to strike blood with not just elected officials, but people in the streets every day. And they have already committed to being violent. They have already committed to it. So just understand that that is who we're fighting. That is who we're fighting, ladies and gentlemen. One quick one before we get out of here. How about a moon base for you? That sound good? A moon base. It's pretty crazy. NASA and Russia are teaming up to create a groundbreaking new space station in orbit around the moon. Moscow and Washington have agreed to build the station called Deep Space Gateway. They should just take the Gateway and make it 9. Wouldn't that be fun? Granted, that would mean you'd have like 8 other ones, but Deep Space 9, they never called any one of the ships the Enterprise. Well, except for the one that never went into space. We're talking about the space shuttles here. Let's call it DS9. Or DS9 last 3 seasons. All right. First half of that series really sucked bad. Then when they got in the war with the Dominion, it was a pretty cool show. Anyway, Russian Space Agency announced that the ambitious project would begin soon. In a speech at the International Astronautical Congress in Australia, following the footsteps of the International Space Station, the moon ships would be open to astronauts and cosmonauts around the world.
The next phase will be to establish an outpost near the moon where we can test the capabilities and limitations of the hardware so that we can get humans all the way to Mars and safely all the way back. Having a cislunar outpost enables international partnerships and commercial opportunities, such as exploration of the lunar surface and scientific and technological research.
So it's a pretty cool deal, and it is really the first step to, if we're going to go to Mars and stay there for any length of time, we're going to have a much, much larger spacecraft to get there. And it would be a spacecraft so big that building it on the ground and then shooting it up, not feasible. But having a space station where you could, basically a space dock that you can build at that has much less gravity than the Earth, but some gravity, the whole thing with the moon, it's that first step of moving on to Mars and specifically being able to construct a ship that can get us there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of the Michael Newman Experience. Hope you liked it. I don't know how long that went. I have no idea. I have no reference out here. But it seemed to work pretty good with all the new technological stuff. It was fun. I forgot to do an outro, though. I don't have an outro yet, so you're not going to have an outro, but we will be back tomorrow with another. It'll be Friday. Oh, it's Friday. Maybe we'll get the Friday song out. That'll be fun. And you can check it out then. All right? All righty. Oh, by the way, go back to, you know what? I can click on this and go back to the website and tell you about that. I have to click the buttons, though. I wasn't prepared. See, this is what happens when you're not prepared. Back to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. Wonderful website from a great guy. It has all the links to the stories we talked about from the podcast today. It's going to be on here. We'll have that uploaded for you. We'll have the YouTube version uploaded. We'll have the SoundCloud version of the show uploaded in just a little bit. You can check out the services, the stuff that I can provide for you, marketing services and voiceover and all that cool stuff. You can contact me simply by clicking the contact link and check out my Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Newmaniac1 is my Twitter handle, by the way. And, of course, you can support the show by clicking on the support icon. And that takes you to a page that I will show you here real quick that explains what Patreon is. Watch the little video there. Then you can click on this button. It takes you to Patreon, and you can support the show in that way. So there you go. Have a fine evening. We will see you tomorrow.